Hello YouTube and welcome to my channel, Jules Craft Room. My name's Julie and today we are doing week 4 part 2 and we are making these little strawberries, well big strawberries, and yeah, so it's a full tutorial, so I'll turn you around and we'll get started. Right, we're starting the strawberry off with a, I've done just a slip knot. And then you go straight into the first row using the tomato colour and you 2 chain. So that's 1, 2. That's your 2 chain. And then it says to do 2 half trebles into the second chain from the hook. So the second chain will be this one at the end. So I'm picking up there and I'm going to do 2 half trebles in there. So that's 1, 2, and that's your first row. And then you turn, you do 2 chain, 1, 2. Now this 2 chain doesn't count as a stitch. And then you do 2 half trebles into each stitch. So at the bottom of where you did your 2 chain, you do 2 half trebles. That's 1, 2, and then the second stitch you do 2 half trebles, 1, 2. So you now have 4 half trebles, and you turn and you do row 3. Row 3, 2 chain again. You do 2 half trebles into the first stitch, which will be at the bottom of the 2 chain. So that's 1, 2, and then you do a half treble into each of the next 2 stitches. So that'll be 1 in there, 1 in the next stitch, and then you do 2 half trebles into this last stitch. That's 1, 2, and that will give us 6 stitches. And now we're going to turn and do row 4. So row 4, you do 2 chain, you do 2 half trebles into the first stitch. That's 1, 2. You do a half treble into each of the next 4 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you do 2 half trebles into this last stitch. 1, 2, and that is the end of row 4, and you should have 8 half trebles. Then you turn, you do 2 chain, and you start the 5th row, which is a half treble into each stitch. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's the end of row 5. Row 6, turn, do 2 chain, 2 half trebles in the first stitch. That's 1, 2. Then you do a half treble into the next 6 stitches. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 2 half trebles into the last stitch. 1, 2, and that will give you 10 half trebles. So row 7, you turn again, you do 2 chain, and you do a half treble into each stitch. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and that's the end of row 7. You turn, do 2 chain, and then row 8 you do 2 half trebles into the first stitch. That's 1, 2, then you do a half treble into 8 stitches, the next 8 stitches. That's 1, 2, oops, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 2 half trebles in this last stitch. And that will give you 12 half trebles. Now row 9, you turn, you do 2 chain, and you do a half treble in each of the 12 trebles. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then that's row 9 done. Row 10, you turn, do 2 chain, and you do exactly the same as row 9, which is a half treble in every stitch. All the way along. And you do the same for row 11. So I'll meet you back here for row 12, which we should have 12 half trebles. Right, so now that was row 10 and that was row 11, and that was just a half treble in every stitch. So we're starting this row with 12 half trebles. And row 12 is a decrease row. So you do 2 chain, and then you're half trebling 2 together over the first 2 stitches. So the bottom of the 2 chain, because the 2 chain doesn't count as a stitch, you yarn over, pull through, and instead of completing your half treble, you then go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through. So you've got 4 loops on the hook, and then you pull through all 4, and that is your half treble decrease, or half treble 2 together. And then you do a half treble into each of the next 8 stitches. So that will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then you do another half treble 2 together. So pull through, don't complete, go into the next stitch. If I can pick up the loops. So you got 4 on there, and pull through. And then you turn and we do row 13. So 2 chain, and row 13 is very similar to row 12. You're doing a half treble 2 together again, so you're decreasing. So you start it, then you go into the next stitch, and then you've got 4 loops on there, and you pull through. And then we are doing 6 half trebles. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then we are doing 2 half treble 2 together again. So you pull through, you don't finish your half treble, then you go into your next stitch. Oh. Pull through all 4, and that's decreased it again. And therefore you should have 8 half trebles. Now you do not turn for row 14, and row 14 you work evenly down this side all the way to the point, and you do it with double crochets, and then when you get to the point you do 2 double crochets, and then you go around the back up the other side and then slip stitch in. It doesn't tell you how many stitches, but roughly 1 for each row. Now I one chained, it doesn't tell you to, but that's what I did. I one chained, and then I went in and did a double crochet. Then roughly going along the edge, do a double crochet all the way round. And it just neatens it up, tidies it up a bit. And try and do, I'll take that out now. That was just to show where row 10 was. Yeah, try and do the same amount up each side. But you can see it's edging it nicely along there. And you do that all the way along. Try to pick up 2 threads if possible. Sometimes it can't be done. And then when you get to the bottom here, you do 2 in there, because you're turning the corner. And then you go up the other side, and I weaved in this thread as I went up the other side to make it tidy. Right, so carry on up there and I'll see you at the end. Right, so when you get to the end, you just slip stitch into the top stitch there. And then that is your strawberry done. Now we've just got to do the green leaf. Right, to make the leaf, you start off with a slip knot and you chain 4. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it says do a half treble into the second chain from the hook which will be this one here. And then you do a half treble into each of the next 2 stitches. And that is your first leaf. And then you do 5 chain, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You do a half treble into the second chain from the hook. That will be 1. And then you do a half treble into each of the next 3. So that's 1, 2, 3. And then it says to slip stitch into the side of the last half treble of the first leaf. So that will be this one here. So you slip stitch into here. If I can get my hook in. Like that. And then you repeat the, from the 5 chain. So another 5 chain, and you do this twice so that you end up with 4 leaves. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, half treble into the second one, and then 3 half trebles along the leaf, 2, 3, slip stitch into there, and then another 5 chain, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, half treble into the second one from the chain, from the hook, and then 3, 1, 2, 3. Then slip stitch back into there and fasten off. It says leave a long bit of so that you can sew it onto your strawberry like that. And that is your leaf. And I think they're all going to look slightly different, but that gives some character. And then you thread up the lemon, and going in the back, weaving in the back, you roughly do spread it out. So roughly the length of a half treble, and you sew on the stitches like that. And then that's your strawberry finished. Okay, so that is, you do 4 of those, and then that is the end of week 4, and I'll see you for week 5. Bye for now.